In a time of conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines, both armies gathered for battle along the Valley of Elah. The Philistines had a fearsome reputation, and among their warriors was a giant named Goliath. Standing over 9 feet tall, depending on the ancient measurements used, Goliath was clad in heavy armor and armed with an array of weapons. Every day for 40 days he stepped forward from the Philistine camp and challenged the Israelite army, taunting and defying them to send a warrior for single combat. This challenge was not just physical but a blow to the morale and honor of the Israelite forces. Hold on a second. Tap that like button. Drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. Alright, let's keep going. The biblical narrative of David and Goliath unfolds during a turbulent era in ancient Israel's history, characterized by persistent conflicts and power struggles with neighboring peoples. The Philistines, inhabiting the coastal regions of Canaan, were not only militarily formidable but also technologically advanced compared to the loosely organized Israelite tribes. This period was marked by a struggle for territory, political dominance, and cultural supremacy, where the Philistines often represented the external threat challenging Israel's very existence. Their aggressive stance, bolstered by well-organized armies and advanced weaponry, created an atmosphere of dread and uncertainty among the Israelites. At the heart of this tension was King Saul's reign, a time when Israel was in the process of consolidating its identity as a nation. Saul, chosen as the first king, faced the enormous task of unifying disparate tribes against external foes. The presence of a towering warrior like Goliath, who came forth daily to challenge the Israelite soldiers with his imposing stature and heavy armor, only intensified the sense of vulnerability. Goliath's challenge was more than a call to physical combat. It was an embodiment of the overwhelming military might of the Philistines and a direct affront to the honor and confidence of the Israelite people. In contrast to the battle-hardened warriors, David emerged from humble beginnings. As a young shepherd responsible for tending his family's flock, he was far removed from the chaos of the battlefield. Yet his life in the pastoral fields was deeply intertwined with a personal and profound relationship with God. This relationship had been forged in the quiet solitude of the countryside, where David faced natural dangers like wild lions and bears, experiences that nurtured his faith and sharpened his instincts for protection. When he arrived at the battlefield to deliver provisions to his brothers, his heart was stirred not by the spectacle of war but by a righteous indignation and confidence in divine deliverance. David's perspective was revolutionary for the time. He believed that the true strength of a nation did not rest solely in its physical might or the number of its soldiers, but in the unwavering trust in God's providence and justice. His determination to confront Goliath was not an act of mere youthful bravado. It was a profound statement of faith in a higher power, one that promised victory to those who placed their trust in divine intervention. Thus, the stage was set for a confrontation that would not only decide the outcome of a battle but also affirm a timeless lesson, that faith and righteousness can triumph over seemingly insurmountable obstacles, reshaping the destiny of a nation. David was a young shepherd, the youngest son of Jesse. While his older brothers were serving in King Saul's army, David's daily tasks involved tending to his father's sheep. Despite his youth and relative inexperience in warfare, David had developed a strong, personal relationship with God. His life as a shepherd had taught him not only to protect his flock from wild animals like lions and bears but also to trust in divine protection and guidance. One day, while visiting the battle lines to bring provisions for his brothers, David heard Goliath's defiant shouts echoing across the valley. Unlike the seasoned soldiers who trembled at the sight of the giant, David was stirred by a righteous indignation. He believed that God, who had delivered him from danger while tending his sheep, would also deliver Israel from this threat. Every morning, Goliath's booming voice filled the air with insults against the Israelite army and their God. He mocked the Israelites' size and strength and dared them to settle the matter through a duel. The challenge was clear. If an Israelite warrior could defeat him, the Philistines would surrender, but if he won, the Israelites would become subjects of the Philistines. The constant challenge not only demoralized the soldiers but also became a symbol of the overwhelming odds the Israelites faced. Upon hearing the challenge, David could not understand why no one dared to stand against Goliath. He questioned the fear that gripped the Israelite camp, recalling his own past experiences of fighting off predators to protect his sheep. David argued that just as God had delivered him from the jaws of a lion or bear, he would deliver Israel from this giant. His confidence was not based on his own strength or skill but on his unwavering faith in the Lord's power and deliverance. When David brought his concerns before King Saul, the king was initially skeptical. After all, David was young and had no formal training as a warrior. However, David recounted his past victories against wild animals and boldly declared that the same God who rescued him would rescue the Israelites from Goliath. Moved by David's faith and determination, King Saul reluctantly agreed to let him face the giant. Although Saul offered his own armor to David for protection, the young shepherd found it cumbersome and unfamiliar, preferring instead his simple sling and a handful of smooth stones gathered from a nearby brook. David's decision to rely on his sling and the stones, rather than the heavy armor of a seasoned warrior, underscored his trust in God rather than in man-made tools. With no traditional armor, David advanced toward Goliath with only his sling, the chosen weapon of a shepherd. As he approached the battlefield, the giant saw the young challenger and laughed. Goliath ridiculed David for his youth and apparent inadequacy, declaring that he was coming to fight with the might of a warrior and that David's weapons were like those of a child. In the midst of mocking laughter and taunts, David's resolve only strengthened. Standing face to face with the giant, he proclaimed that the battle was the Lord's and that the victory would serve as a testament to God's power. As Goliath advanced, David quickly selected one of the smooth stones from his pouch, placed it in his sling, and took careful aim. With a swift, precise motion, David released the stone. It struck Goliath directly in the forehead, the one vulnerable spot not covered by his armor. The impact was decisive. The giant staggered and fell to the ground, defeated by a force that belied his formidable size. Seizing the moment, David ran toward the fallen giant. With Goliath incapacitated, David used the enemy's own sword to behead him, ensuring that the threat was completely neutralized. When the Philistine army witnessed their champion's downfall, fear and confusion swept through their ranks. The once confident warriors scattered and fled, and the Israelite forces rallied, pursuing the retreating enemy until the victory was complete. David's victory over Goliath became a pivotal moment for Israel. It was seen as an act of divine intervention, a demonstration that faith and trust in God could overcome even the most insurmountable challenges. This event not only boosted the morale of the Israelites, but also marked the beginning of David's rise to national prominence, eventually setting him on the path to becoming one of Israel's greatest kings. The story of David and Goliath is remembered for several key lessons. Faith over fear. David's courage was rooted in his deep trust in God rather than his physical prowess or military might. Divine empowerment. The narrative underscores the belief that God supports those who stand by him, even when facing seemingly impossible odds. Empowerment of the underdog. David's triumph serves as an enduring symbol that with faith and determination, the seemingly weak can overcome powerful adversaries. Moral and spiritual victory. Beyond the physical victory over Goliath, the story is often interpreted as a victory of righteousness and faith over arrogance and brute strength.